What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 266 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
Joining us on the Skype machines is a creator who we were talking about drooling. Not literal drooling, but it... Okay, so I'm going to... Bear with me. I'm going to give a little bit of an... Because, like, when we go to Steampunk World's Fair, we've gone 4 years now?
I think so.
4 years. Year 5's coming up soon. It always is a show of what am I going to see this year? Because there's a lot of great new things I have fallen in love with at that show. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple constant things that is, okay, so there's the new things we're going to see, and then there's the we need to make sure to check out because it's just one of those. And one of those things, one of those people is the person who's been anxiously awaiting to say hello on Skype. And that is Michelle Greenwood of Greenwood Creations. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Michelle, we first, at least me, did you know about...
No.
Before? Okay, so we both
pretty much
fell upon this at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a lot of really... This is going to be so lame. Really neat stuff. I hate saying that, but it's just the best way I can describe it. Really individual, really just... You don't really see it anywhere else, at least at the shows that we go to.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, we frequent so many Comic-Cons,
yeah,
and we see comic artists doing sketches, but we also see people that make prints or T-shirts, and eventually you see kind of like the same prints repeat themselves. It's like, how many times can you see someone digitally color in Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I'm not knocking digital artists, but, you know, it's like at some point, I don't need to buy all of the Spider-Man prints. But then we go to this other show, and we see what Michelle does, and it's mind-boggling. Because
stop.
There's going to be a lot of flattery here, Michelle, because
I tried to warn her ahead of time.
My face is already beet red. I can feel it. I can feel my cheeks.
We have a nasty habit of just kind of gushing and not even really letting our guests speak. But
what Michelle does is, I don't think I'll pronounce it wrong. Pyrography?
Yeah, that's good. That works.
Close enough.
Pyrography?
Yeah. Pyrography. I say pyrography.
Pyrography.
I don't even know if there's a right way to say it, to be honest with you.
I'll go with your way.
There's no spell check.
Yeah, we'll just go with that.
You're the one who does it and does it better than anyone I've ever seen, so
yeah.
We'll go with your version.
But it's not
also called wood burning.
That too.
That's the easier term.
Yeah. That's easy. It's just so people know what we're talking about.
And you make some of the most beautiful stuff. And what makes it almost like painful to experience is that like none of it can be erased.
No.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've seen you mention in other places in the comments somewhere on your work is that like you almost prefer to work in stuff that can't be undone.
Yeah, it makes you focus a lot more. When you're working with pyrography, you're burning into the material. So once that mark is made, that's it. There are exceptions where you can take in some sandpaper or whatever and maybe get rid of a smaller mark. But for the most part, you're done. And so the concentration, you have to be in the work at all times. And I appreciate that inness.
For the people listening at home who are saying, what is this word they're trying to pronounce? Pyrography, wood burning. Can you give us like a summary of, because like we've kind of hinted at it, but like,
yeah, no problem.
Describe your craft.
So what I do is I take a hunk of wood or some other burnable material and a metal pen that gets very, 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 very hot. And then I take the pen and I char the wood and not quite set it on fire. And then, you mark up the wood and make a cool design on it. That's pretty much what I do.
You can't really put it much better than that.
Not quite set it on fire. Have there been times when you have started a fire?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I started a fire with incense before, but never with my pyrography pen. I burned myself, but I haven't burned anything else.
That was another question I was going to ask later.
Like, you got to start somewhere. You can't. You as far as like pick. I imagine that's an interesting, like, happy medium to find. Like, hey, this is my first time ever holding this searing hot pen. Let's try to, like, to hear that you've never said, that's impressive, because I imagine I would have many fire extinguishers at the ready.
Well, it's surprisingly hard to start a fire if you're working on a piece of wood. If you're using a pyrography pen on a piece of wood, it's very hard to get it to a temperature where it's actually going to ignite on you.
Right.
So, paper, not so much. You can set paper on fire, but wood, you're usually safe.
So how did you get into this craft? Like, did you go to school for art? Like, were you a lifetime artist? How did you end up at this?
I mean, in high school and when I first started college, I was on the art track, so I do have a little bit of a fundamental start in art, but after my first year of college, I gave up on that and went into another field. Basically, I just got bored one day and picked up a pen that someone had given me and started burning stuff with it. It's not an exciting story. I was bored. I started setting stuff on fire. There you go.
There's a lot of less constructive careers that begin that way.
Right.
So I want to try and get into describe what you make. And as we said before, because we haven't seen anyone else come close to the quality that you can do. And I was likening it to, it's like tattooing earlier. If you ever watch a tattoo artist have to like blend out smoke or even a shadow from dark to light, and it's like, how do you know how much ink is in the tip of the needle?
It's just a blurry mess. Like,
right.
And then to make that be even, like over like a fan spread or something like that, and have that all be the same. And then I was thinking about your work. It's like when you shade something from a dark to a light, it's like and one of the great things in the past couple months or so, I've been on Instagram. I've never Instagrammed before. But I've been watching a lot of artists, and like I said before, it's like watching when artists put up the short videos of their work and of them actually doing the work and everything, watching.
Oh, it's the best.
Oh, it's great. Because like I've stood at a convention and watched someone sketch out Lobo for me or sketch out Captain America or something. But then I get to watch them like work on a page at home, and like they're inking their Captain America shield that's gonna eventually be printed for 50,000 issues to be made up. And then like I get to watch your work too, and like just like the delicate brush strokes, it's almost like feathering this piece.
It doesn't look like a pen. Like it doesn't. It's so crazy.
And it doesn't look like a hot piece of metal,
right?
When you're actually working with it.
So, it was. I feel like I could watch it for hours. Just like it just. The fact that you're not drawing on something, you're burning it, you're searing it, and just like the delicate touches that you do, or at least the ones in the videos that I've seen recently. Does your hand get tired? Because in my head I'm like, is it a prolonged matter of how long you hold the pen to the surface, or do you have to like really dig in? You have to like
that was not where I was expecting that question to go.
I mean, we'll come back around to better stuff, but like in my head, I'm like, I really want to.
These are the pressing issues.
I really want to murder this piece of wood with hot stuff, so I'm just gonna jab it in there as hard as I can. Like, I imagine that's the wrong aspect to go about it.
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. Sometimes I do gouge that wood, and I turn up the heat real high, and I'm almost setting it on fire. I get little ember sparks coming off. But it depends on what you're trying to do. My arm gets tired, and my fingers get cramped because I'm a lefty, so I hold the pen funny. Which you've probably seen if you follow me on Instagram or any of my other accounts, and you've seen those videos, the way that I hold the pen, my fingers get really cramped. Because you have to hold that pose for so long. But it depends on what you're trying to do with it.
The thing that gets, like, there's a lot of, because, like, Alex owns one of your pieces. I have marveled at many of them, and to the point where it was, like, I was forgetting to pay attention because like we go to Steampunk World's Fair to report on the show. We go to take pictures and we go to talk about the thing. And
but it's such a distracting show,
isn't it?
It is so hard to concentrate when you're at Steampunk World's Fair.
We will, I'm sure, talk at length about the World's Fair soon. But like just the there's like something for everyone. It's not just like, you know, oh man, Michelle Greenwood does great stuff. It's just, you know, I just wish I could afford it. Because like there's not even an excuse there because like you can, like Alex has a spoon. He has a wooden spoon, and it has a beautiful Cthulhu carving in it. And like you could go for something as small as like a spoon or like even like a small pendant to something like a large. Is it like a dirigible?
Yeah, there's a dirigible. There's also a crab. There's
the crab, yes, the enormous crab. Like just it blows me away because like doing the large things with the unbelievable intricate details, and then even the small things with just still the intricate details. There's like, I don't have a question here, by the way. I'm just kind of going. But like, was there a large learning curve when it came to doing
massive. And I tell, so one of the reasons that I do a lot of social media is to teach people how to do pyrography. It's not just about, you know, pushing my art, though, hey, buy my stuff, that's great. But I like to teach people too. And the one idea that I can't get through people's heads enough is the learning curve is huge for this. And it's okay. You know, you're not going to be doing gorgeous, detailed, delicate work in your first month or even your first year, and that's fine. You know, you've just got to learn the art form. And there's nothing wrong with taking your time with that.
As far as like the creations that you make, the art that you put down, where do you draw like that inspiration from? Like where do you, like, you know, the Cthulhu spoon, like it's both adorable and you know, mildly terrifying because it's Cthulhu, you drive insane. But like where do you get your inspiration for your designs?
The inspiration largely comes from the past that never was, the past that we fictionalize. So I've studied a lot of mythology and a lot of the roots of modern paganism, and it draws on this idea of the past, but not the past as it actually was. There was that's kind of where I'm going. I've completely lost my train of thought now with that. But so well done me. But just mythology and the way things could have been, I suppose. The way we wish things had been.
Right.
That's where I draw a lot of inspiration.
Do you have a preference for what kind of work you prefer to do? Because some of your stuff has a certain theme to it. It's like, I can fit Cthulhu on a spoon, or JR really wanted a box that had an octopus on it.
Oh my god, that box is incredible.
But at the same
Shut up, why'd you remind me of that?
I'm going to go bring it up again. But at the same time, you'll have just like a circle that has like vines and leaves, and I if my memory is wrong, there was like Celtic knotwork in it and everything. And it's just like, it's this pattern that all comes together. It's not specifically one thing. It's, you know, it's a pattern. So I don't know if you like to switch between, you know, these intricate patterns or an object to start your base around.
I like to switch between genres. So I'll sit down and I'll say, you know, I'm feeling a little steampunky today, so let's do some gears with some overgrown, you know, vines going through them. Let's see how that works out. Or I'm feeling really pagan today, so I'm going to make a piece with the tree of life and Celtic knotwork around the sides. It just depends on how I'm feeling and what direction I want to go.
Do you do a lot of pre-drawing before you get to burning? Like, do you just sketch? Oh my god!
No. I take a number 2 pencil. I sketch it directly onto the wood, like real rough draft, and then I just go to town. Yeah, there's not a lot of planning that goes into this stuff. It's not planned.
Impossible. So, like the disc I'm talking about, the pattern looks so perfect and so symmetrical. To just like, I just freehanded that. It's it's easy.
Well,
we don't believe you.
So the knot work. Obviously, you're gonna measure out the guidelines for the knot work. If you're doing, if I'm doing, say, a pentacle or something of the 5-pointed star that's typical in paganism, and I'm doing knot work around that. That's all mathematically based, so I can do one corner and then just use some tracing paper to kind of flip-flop it around the rest of the design. But it's not like I'm sitting there planning it out to the millimeter. I mean, that's really intense, and I don't like doing that. It's too much trouble.
That's fair.
So a lot of it is flubbed.
Why draw something twice?
Right. Flubbed with elegance. That's what I like to do.
I brought up the large crab piece that you had done.
Oh yeah, that one was fun.
Ago. And I believe I first pointed it out when we were at your vendor room. Is that the embassy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and I'm like, what? This is flat. This is a flat piece of wood, but it looks absolutely three-dimensional. Like it's supposed to have bumps and curves and everything, just the way that you shaded it and you laid everything out. And I'm like, well, how did you do? And you're just like, oh, you get that, huh? And there was like a fist pump behind me. She's like, I accomplished this task. And I was like, it just, in my head, I couldn't comprehend that this was still a flat surface. Because it appeared
I'm
that
working on getting better at that. That's, I'm getting better. The crab was good, but I'm getting better now.
There's a better level?
So, there is, yes. So I know we should be talking about my work, but one of these days I'm going to show you some other pyrographers that do, like every art form has levels to it,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always trying to improve, and I think we're all trying to improve in our art. But the level of realism, photorealism that you can get with pyrography is outstanding. It's just mind-boggling. They look like photographs, and that's where I want to get to eventually.
At some
but
point,
obviously not photographs.
I was doing some research because I was like, I wonder if this is something I could do. It's not. But I was looking at the record.
No, it is. It is.
I was looking around YouTube, and someone was like doing some demos of the different pen tips that exist, and like one of their examples, they had made this like really gorgeous like bison, like a herd of bison, and there was just so much detail in it. I was like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
that
it looked
either.
like you were looking at a really good photograph, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people think of pyrography as, I'm going to make this sign to hang on my wall that says, home is where the heart is, and that's as far as they ever go. But you can push it so much farther than that. And that's what I'm interested in. I want to see how far I can push it.
So, working on wood, was there a lot of research and learning curve as to like what types of wood work best, or if someone just handed you a stack, would you be able to tell like which
this is good, this is bad?
It's actually pretty simple. Make sure that it hasn't been finished in any way. So pressure treated wood is right out. Anything with a varnish on it is right out. Don't touch them. After that, look at the grain of the wood. And you know what I mean when I say the grain of the wood, right? It's the pattern in the wood.
Mm-hmm.
If it has a really pronounced pattern, like, ooh, I want to put this on my floor because it's so beautiful, maybe don't use that wood. Maybe use one that looks a little bit flatter and a little bit more boring. And then that's pretty much, those are the rules. That's it.
Do you cut out your own shapes? Do you have like a jigsaw or a scroll saw or something? Or
I wish I did. I'm going to use a word that I don't like. I have somebody who does laser cutting for me. Mm-hmm. And I hate saying that because I get accused of using lasers to do my work a lot, but I don't. I just sometimes, like if I need a shape cut like the crab, I'll send that out to someone with a laser who will laser cut the crab, and then I'll decorate the entire inside of it or whatever. Eventually, I'd like to be able to do that myself, but I don't have the facilities for it right now.
Yeah. Lasers, a lot of...
I was immediately furious when you mentioned that people have accused you of using lasers on work.
Have they not watched any of your videos?
No, they will look at my booth and they'll go, "Oh, this is all laser done," and I'm like, "But it's not done with lasers. You can't do this with lasers."
The thing that blows me, kind of is even more frustrating about that is the fact that at least when we've seen your booth, you're typically working on something at the time.
Yeah.
Like, it smells like burnt wood. You know, like, you can look over and it's like, oh, hey, she's talking to that person, but she also has her pen. She's currently working on a half-finished piece. Like, to be like, oh, those are lasers, even though you're doing it right now. You're lazy, just lasers.
Go ahead.
As far as I can tell, like, from my memory, I never saw any, like, duplicate items. Like, I didn't see any cookie cutter, like, oh, she's got 6 of the same exact thing, which is exactly what you would have if you were using a laser.
Yeah. I wish I could do that, but there's just no way to do it. Like, it's got to be done by hand. I have patterns that I repeat, and certain, like, you'll see I have butterflies, and I'll have the same basic butterfly, but every one is still different. I just can't get them to look the same. You can't do it if you're doing it by hand.
If you ask me, that's even better.
Unique.
Yeah.
It just exactly like you said, unique. Like, it just like each thing you're getting, it might look like another thing, but like you're gonna find those differences. It was still crafted by hand. Like, it's still that unique piece, which is like one of those great things that, like, especially shows like Steampunk World's Fair is just great for finding.
Yeah.
You know, it's coming up in 3 weeks.
About, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Man, is that all I have?
2.5, 3 weeks.
Okay.
Surprise.
You can do it.
All right. Fine.
How long have you been going to World's Fair?
I think this is going to be my 5th year at Steampunk World's Fair. I want to say 5th. So I think I was there the year before you guys were.
Potentially.
Right?
Have you been vending?
6th.
Have you been vending every year?
Yes.
Like, did you go into the show just being like, I've never been here, I want to vend?
Well, you know, I don't remember. I think one of my friends asked me to do it. She said, you know, this is a great show. You should apply for it and see if you get in, whatever. So the first year we went, my husband and I were immediately hooked. We knew, like, even if we don't sell a thing, we are coming back to this fair every year they'll let us. And that's just how it's been. You know, and every year they let me come, I'll keep coming. It's a great show.
I'm going to sound like a jerk for a second.
Oh, dear.
But looking at all the vendors that show up, you can usually spot the people that make their own stuff. You can tell it's their skill and their craft.
Yeah,
but then,
you can.
But then occasionally, like, you can tell which vendor bought their tiny hats from Michael's and bought their gears from Michael's, and then they put the gears in the tiny hat. And if people want to buy that, okay. But the people who are kind of used to crafting and have done a little bit of it themselves, they could see that and be like, I know exactly what went into this, and maybe I could do it too. But when you come along, that artisan, that crafter, the maker and creator, who definitely, like, you can tell there's a lot of talent involved. It just brings it to a new level. So,
and I agree with this, what you're saying, and I hear that, but I think we all started off at that level, so I don't really mind seeing that at all, because then you come back the next year and they've gotten a little better. You come back the next year and they've gotten even better. Like, it's a growth process. So, you know, I don't mind that so much.
Fair.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned that your friend had mentioned World's Fair to you. Like, up until then, had you been, like, were shows a common thing for you? Like, had you, like, is that the normal type of show for you?
Was Steampunk World's Fair or Steampunk type of shows the normal fare for me? No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I did another Jeff Mack event back when they used to do Wicked Fair. I did Wicked Fair.
Right.
So I was already familiar with that kind of alternate crowd, and I'm a little, I don't want to say weird, but I'm a little weird myself, so, I fit right in. Most of the shows that I had been doing before Steampunk World's Fair came along, though, were like your local craft fair, street fairs, things like that. Mm-hmm. Really nice. They were nice shows.
Every show has the things to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they were very respectable shows.
There was our friendly co-host Brett. There was a point where, like, we had to push him to take that next step, because he had done some craft fairs and like he's had like a running table for, I think, for maybe 6 years at like one of the bigger, like, both single day craft fair in Northampton. When we were like, Brett, it's time for you to do a Comic-Con. Just let's get we'll get a table set up. Yeah. We'll split it. You have to go art at a Comic-Con.
Take the plunge.
Yeah.
And do it. Cleaned house.
And they've worked out pretty well, but it's like, it's sometimes a bigger show that's more keyed into what you're interested in, like, mm-hmm. can be a big step and, like, also a risk at the same time, because, having to afford either a room or a table at a bigger show compared to what you might pay at a craft fair or a smaller festival kind of thing.
It's funny you say room, and we've mentioned room a couple times because, we've talked about World's Fair at length on the show. But for people who are maybe unfamiliar, new listeners, what have you, at World's Fair, it's I've never been to a show like it.
I had to try and explain it to
yeah. You explain, and like I guess I even when you explain, I didn't have the picture in my head like quite right. Like the show takes place at two big hotels, two main hotels, side by side,
mm-hmm. And the space in between them,
and a large and a very large lot where they set up a giant stage and a giant tent. It's awesome. And outside there's a lot of vendors with their tents, mm-hmm. and you can look at all the stuff that they're selling and try not to buy all of it. And there's also like there's one of my favorite parts is the courtyard in the Radisson, one of the hotels. There's a big like semi-enclosed courtyard where there's like a gazebo, and there's normally like an aerialist, the Manhattress,
yes.
Ascadelia.
Mm-hmm.
She's
mm-hmm.
doing like the silks.
There's some performance places.
There's a stage in the courtyard. There's also some more vendors there. And there are a couple vendor rooms in the Radisson as well that has like the big like rooms that they can clear out. But there's also when like certain hallways set up, at least in the Radisson, and then in the Embassy Suites. I think is it just the first floor?
Yeah.
Yep.
The rooms themselves, the hotel rooms, are like shops. Like like
little boutiques.
It's amazing.
It becomes a vendor space.
Yeah, like
mm-hmm.
especially in the Embassy Suites where they have a little bit more room outside the doors. Like people will like
mm-hmm.
hang a sign like this is my shop. Come in and look at my wares. Like, and you can go into this person's room. Like typically you'll see the bed like flipped up against the wall. Like although the Embassy Suites have a little bit more room, I believe. Like there's like a front room and a back room where the bed is.
Some
I think.
of them, some.
Right, we generally sleep in the back rooms, and then we have our shop out in the front room. So.
But like you walk in and you enter this person's shop, and like it can get a little bit crowded, sometimes because at the end of the day it's a hotel room.
Mm.
But like it's one of the more unique, and again, like this could be happening at shows across the country for all I know, but it's the only show that I go to where this happens,
mm-hmm.
and I love it. I'm also painfully shy, so I can't go into a store unless Alex goes into that room first. So I need to follow Alex in before I can commit to it, because typically, this person, they're trying to sell you stuff. So if you walk in, they're going to strike up a conversation. Then people who have horrible conversational skills, such as myself, go, nice things, and then they walk out, But it's like the last couple years, or every year, I think, right, since we've been there, Michelle has had a room in the embassy, which is one of the most beautiful hotels I've ever been in. Keep in mind, I mostly stay at La Quintas, but and like you enter this room and it's a shop, and you're just immediately surrounded by this beautiful stuff. It's one of the most unique things that I really dig about World's Fair. And I don't know if your first year when you had vended there, Michelle, like were you in a room? Did you have a table like outside or anything like that?
No, my first 2 years I vended there, I was actually in the Radisson courtyard. Two or 3 years, the first 2 or 3 years. We had a tent, and we were right by the gazebo with all the flowers and the food right there. It was very convenient. But then we switched to the embassy, and then this year we're actually leaving the embassy again and going back out into the courtyard. We missed it so much. We actually did. It's a great place to be.
It really is. And like hopefully there were unfortunately some storms hit us last year at the show, like some big storms.
Yeah.
But
the Sunday got really weird because
people were
a
like
lot of people packed up. And it's
Yeah.
like, do they set back up again, or do they just keep packing?
It was definitely a bummer. But like, it also made for some great. One of the fondest memories I had last year. There's always like that one thing that really sticks out was remember, like it was pouring. Just it was like we all got annihilated. And like I always make a habit. I was like, I want to go up to the 5th floor of the Embassy Suites because like you can see out the balcony and just watch people.
Yeah.
And was it Nathaniel Johnstone Band?
Yes.
We're doing like just an impromptu show right there in the middle of the lobby.
I remember that
Because they were supposed to be on the stage, but they weren't allowed.
The stage got flooded, didn't it?
Or there was lightning, or so. There was a bad idea.
Something like that.
There was a lot of storm happening. But like when you're in the courtyard, like that's your whole day. Like you got a stage right there. You got the music acts. You got it. That must be.
You can watch Professor Mark Donnelly do some combat training and.
It's fantastic. Everything comes to you when you're in the courtyard.
Exactly.
And you don't have to go to anything.
Like at a Comic-Con, like we've tabled a couple times at Boston Comic-Con, just with our friend Brett, just to to try to hype up the show and also to have somewhere to sit. And by the end of Saturday going into Sunday, end of Sunday, like you're staring at the same people for 3 days. Like there's the people across from you, there's the people to the sides. You start to see the same cosplayers go by. Whereas like at World's Fair, it's like, okay, now this person's performing next to me, and now this person's performing. Now this show's happening in the courtyard. It's just one of those things. Like another quirk about. I can't talk enough great things about this show. But like I can see that let's really hope the weather holds off this year. It would be really nice.
Yeah.
But
me too. Me too.
But like as far as like getting back into the courtyard, is that something like you're excited for? Like was it like a voluntary thing?
It was voluntary, yes. So my husband is far more excited than I am, and I'm very excited. But my husband, I mentioned it to him. What do you think? Should we go back out into the courtyard this year? And he's like, "Oh yeah, let's do that! I can't wait. We're gonna be right by everything." So he was all kinds of excited about it. Me, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to keep my tent from flying away again.
Right.
But it's all fun and games for him, and hopefully it will be for us too if the weather holds. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I believe it was last week or so. You had posted some pictures of your proposed setup for like how you display all your stuff, and you were asking questions of your friends of like, should I keep the green or should I switch out the red for some of the at least the frames to display some of the stuff you have that are either hangers or pendants and whatnot. And like you were taking advice and critiques, and like, most people were like, I think it's great, it's fine, don't change anything from what I saw. But how often do you seek out like other people's ideas, only because
Well, I've
artists that were friends with Dave Mahan, he sets up his table a certain way where like he has it down to a science, and he's like rebuilt it and reconstructed it and done it again because there's so much stuff you want to try.
He's a master of real estate.
right.
You want to try and fit on the table, and then not, you don't want to leave anything out because you want to put everything on display, and then how do you make it look the most appealing?
Well, one of these days I hope to have it down to a science too. Unfortunately, I'm not there yet. So a lot of my friends are very artistically inclined. They've got good eyes, so I feel confident asking them for advice on whether it be color or construction, what have you. I know that they're going to give me good, straight advice. So, yeah, I ask every time I set up at this stage. I'm asking certain groups of people, what do you think? What's the feedback here? It's not a skill that I have. Setting up and display is not one of my skills. So I have no shame in asking for help with that. None.
When you have pieces out, sometimes a lot of it is finished. Sometimes, I believe my Cthulhu spoon was like a prelim, like it was sketched out, and some of it was burned, but not all the way. Do you get a sense of how often customers like see, like if you have a couple of different butterflies, do they like, no, it's this one, like this particular butterfly called out to me and I want it. But at the same time, like with mine, like I trust you to finish this and it'll be good no matter what. And I just want to pay for it now to guarantee.
Right. Yeah, you get all different types. Some people, they want to see it as it's going to be done. Right now they want it finished and they want what they want. And then some people, they don't even want to see it half completed. They just say, this is what I want and ship it to me when it's done. Surprise me. There's all types. And that's one of the reasons why I bring things that are halfway finished. Mm-hmm. They can get an idea of the process. They can get an idea of what it's going to look like, and they still have the ability to have some input there because it's not completely finished.
I'm trying to remember because there was, I follow a couple different people, and I don't want to accuse anything. Some people say like they don't take requests. Like what they're going to make is what they make, and I don't recall if you had that stipulation or not.
I got to a point for a while where I wasn't taking commissions,
right.
But that was more a time issue than I don't want to make your stuff issue. Mm-hmm. I actually like working with my customers and kind of having that joint vibe going on. It feels more special that way. I can talk to them and bring their ideas to life, and there's just something really, really awesome about that for me. But I know personally a lot of artists who don't like to do that, and I respect that. That's cool. It's all in what your artistic mode is.
I could imagine if someone I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I am taking commissions now, though. So that is a thing that is happening. Okay, go ahead.
I could imagine if someone is familiar enough with your work and, they want to invest in something that they would have an idea of like, what it is that you can do and just like trust you enough to be like, here's my ideas and I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Whereas, we've seen comic artists like who do commissions on the side, like get furious at artists sometimes. I'm trying.
What are you referencing?
Ex Machina artist.
Tony Harris.
Tony Harris.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of times where Tony Harris has like gone on a rant about him doing, was it a painting? It was something big.
He did a huge commission for someone,
and then they wanted something done differently,
like
and they wanted, and like they were giving notes, and he's like, "Do you know why I don't take notes?" And, like he was kind of mad. And at the same time, it's like, dude, who's dumb enough to get a commission for Tony Harris and then like try giving him artist notes? Like he knows.
No, I feel that. I've had people do that to me. I think every artist has had, customers do that to them, where they say, "Oh no, I trust you," but then they're giving you, bullet points of all the things that you did wrong with their commission. And it's just something that you have to. If you're going to do the work, you have to accept that. That's just the way people are. Mm-hmm. It's hard, though, and he certainly has my sympathy. There are many times I would like to go on those rants myself, so I understand that.
In case people don't have an idea of what it is we're talking about, because it's audio only and you can't see what we're talking about, where can we send our listeners to find your stuff and look at it and hopefully drool as much as we do?
The best place to go for links is greenwoodcreationsstudio.com. That is my website. It's not very good. I'm not a web designer. I'm working on it. But it does have links to all of my social media accounts, my YouTube channel, Society 6, etc., etc. Anywhere else, if you just search Greenwood Creations, you should be able to find me on Google. I should pop up the first probably 5 or 6 links.
I think the first one, I popped in Google and spent half the episode afterwards scrolling through Etsy, where you can actually buy some stuff that Michelle has created.
The Greenwood Creations 13 is my Etsy shop. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't let me have just Greenwood Creations. I know.
God. But
how dare they?
You can go and find Michelle's work all over the internet. You can go and support, and if you like it, you can buy it too. You can also see her stuff in person at the World's Fair coming up in a couple weeks in the courtyard. Did you say? Well, the other courtyard is the Radisson.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the Radisson courtyard. Yes.
The other has been the Midway in the past.
Yeah,
the parking lot in between.
Yeah, there's the Midway where our friend Nicole sets up her photography studio outside. But speaking of which, as far as at World's Fair, Michelle, I don't know how much time you get, to actually experience the show, yourself. Is there
I do my best.
Yeah,
I really do.
What do you go to see when you go to World's Fair?
Oh boy, I love the costumes so much. Mm-hmm. I love seeing everybody's creativity and what they come up with. Kind of the homespun costumes, with the people who aren't really professionals, but they're just sticking stuff together. I think last year we had some Avengers that came that were just cardboard cutout pieces that they duct tape on their body.
I took a bunch of pictures with them. Because there's a really good Thor, and I was my steampunk Mandarin kind of thing, and I walked up and I was
remember.
I said, "Thor, can I not lift your hammer?" And he goes, "Of course you can't lift my hammer." And he puts it down. We got a good picture, and he's laughing at me. There was a really neat Iron Man, and there was a guy who had an abbreviation for Hulk, so he wasn't a Hulk, but he had this really neat Gatling gun arm attachment.
Oh, cool!
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Emperor Norton Stationary Marching Band is going to be back this year, so I am definitely going to check them out.
Yes.
They are fantastic. And then otherwise, I'm probably not going to get to go out very much because I'm having two presentations as well as the booth.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So presentations, are you going to be doing some panels at the show?
Not panels, more salons.
Okay.
So we'll have 2 different artist gatherings where you're free to bring your materials and draw with us. There'll be one with basic anatomy for the artist and one with shadows and light, where we're going to set up little vignettes so that you can practice your shading. Very, very low key, very no pressures. Just come, draw, have a conversation. But between that and the booth, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see too much.
Right. It's one thing when you're in a hotel room, you can shut the door.
Right. Yeah. When you have a tent out in the middle of the courtyard, not so much. You kind of have to be there. Yeah.
Do you know when your workshops are going to be? Like, are they on the schedule yet? Do you know?
As far as I know, right now the schedule is still tentative, and the schedule will probably be tentative until the week of the fair.
Right.
But I think one of them is at 9 o'clock on Friday, and one of them is at 8 o'clock on Saturday, obviously in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
But that is subject to change, and I'm not sure where they are yet.
The best part is about World's Fair, like 9 o'clock in the evening on a Friday. That's like the show's like just getting started. Like, like
there's
people,
stuff to do right up until 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
It's the best, and then you never know what might happen after everything is supposed to end. You know, it's unbelievable.
One of the things that I like about you is how much of a fan you are of other stuff. Because sometimes there's makers who are like, you know, they're too cool for everyone else. You know, like I'm just gonna just gonna do my thing.
You see the coolest stuff at Steampunk World's Fair, and I fangirl over like half of it. So
one of the things we've mentioned in the past was I think you might have listened to one of our episodes a couple of years ago.
For like Brett Kelly's recommendation or something. I don't even know how it happened.
It was like the review, and I was talking about how your stuff is so good, and then how much I liked Matt Etch's glass etching.
Tony!
And at some point you were like, her stuff is the best, I love it so much. And I was like, oh, do you guys know each other? It's like, no, but like, I can't believe you compared my stuff to her stuff because it's so good. I was like, you're both amazing. What's not to understand about that?
No, yeah, her stuff is great. And I've just been watching some of the new stuff. So she does glass etching, and she does it all freehand. Like I'll sketch out on the wood with a pencil, but she just goes to town on the glass. And I've been watching the stuff that she's preparing for Steampunk World's Fair. I am so excited to see her booth. I cannot wait.
She just posted like a ship's steering wheel on a bottle today.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
I get so frustrated with all this stuff because I just want to buy it all, and then.
In past years, JR came home and told his wife about the box with the octopus, because this little octopus, like the way his tentacles are up, it looks like he's like put up your dukes, like, and like we never asked if that was intentional or if that's just how you made it.
That's just how I made it. Though now that you say that, I really wish it was intentional, because that would have been a great story.
And the result was JR's wife going, "And why didn't you get it?"
Oh.
Yeah. She. I had some regrets, but I'll make up for it. It's just neat stuff. So yes, World's Fair is coming up a couple weeks. If you want to see all of this stuff that we're talking about in the flesh, you have the opportunity to do so. Just get your butts down to New Jersey. You know, it's worth it. You know, some people are like, New Jersey. I'm like, no. Just go to New Jersey. Just do it. If we can make the trip.
It's its own little world. It's not really New Jersey. I mean, it's in New Jersey, but it's its own little thing.
It is.
We've talked about how it's some of the worst post-con depression, we call it. Because you're just living in this fantasy world for 3 days, and then you go back to real people, and it's like, oh, this isn't as much fun.
The con crash is unbelievable from that show.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Especially my first year, which was 2013, I think. Like I had no idea what I was doing. Like I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go to this thing, like because I was pumped to see. Big fans of Steam Powered Giraffe at the time, and like they're West Coast. They almost never. I think it was like one of their first East Coast shows ever. They were I was like, okay, cool, we'll go to that show, and you know, also like it'll be a new thing, and you know, because Alex had been to it previously. Yeah, and you'd been to Wicked Fair too. So I was like, cool, I'll go, whatever. And like that following Monday, going into work at the time, like you know, my retail job was one of the worst days of my life. Like I'm not even. Oh,
you had to do retail on top of it. I am so sorry.
Yep. It was brutal. Like because like I'd been to tons of cons before, and like it's like, oh man, it sucks that the con's over. That bummer, you know. But like leaving World's Fair, like just a place like with just like you said, like a fantasy world, Alex. You know, it's just like. And, like, I don't even, like, I go every year in my Batman t-shirt and my jeans, you know, it's one of those few shows where I go and I stick out because I'm not dressed up, you know, like, and still, like, even though, like, I'm not one for dressing up or anything like that, it's still one of my favorite things of the year. And also, you know, like, not only just because, like, of the people you see, but, like, the opportunities to see new things, experience new things, and also to... buy rad things that have been burned onto wood, you know.
Fire.
Exactly. But it's one of my favorite shows, Michelle, and it led us to ultimately meeting Michelle, which was fantastic in a way too. But it's coming up in a couple weeks. It's going to be rad. Michelle is going to be there with her Greenwood Creations table. You can go and take a look and buy all the things, and even if you're not going to go to the show, you can check everything out online. You can just essentially Google, you know, Greenwood Creations, or go directly to Michelle's website, see everything there. It is all great stuff. Michelle, I got to say thank you so much for coming on. Well,
thank you very much for inviting me on. It was fun.
It was a pleasure, and because like you know, when we're talking in the hotel room, it's like I need to know more about this, but there's also people who are trying to spend money, so it's I will get out of the way so money can be spent. But it was
never feel shy. Always come and talk. The artists want to talk to you, so
yeah. Well, as soon as Alex, you know, breaks the ice for me, I'll. But Michelle, thanks again so much. It was a total pleasure getting to chat with you. You know, we'll hopefully be seeing you in a couple weeks at your courtyard spot.
Absolutely.
With all your stuff. Do you have anything else? Go check out the stuff online. Go to Steampunk World's Fair. Go look at all the stuff and marvel at it, similar to what we just did for the past hour.
And even if you're skeptical, watch her videos of her actually doing the work. It's kind of mesmerizing.
It's not lasers.
It's not no lasers.
We didn't even get into the different tips that the pens have.
Yeah. I can tell you one thing: they all probably get really hot.
Yeah.
And I would burn.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Do you still have fingerprints left, or are they gone?
My fingers are fine. The tips are fine. It's the edges that I end up burning, and the yeah. I have a few scars. It's okay.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
It's worth it.
All right. Michelle, thanks again. So much fun. We will be seeing you hopefully in a couple weeks. Until then, that is going to do it for us this week. I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Michelle.
And this has been episode 266 of Opinions May Vary.